Alright, Spinnaker is back with what I think is probably their best new release of 2021, and that's the Spinnaker Croft midsize. This is a well-spec'd, vintage-style 40mm diver that really gives you everything you could ask for in this $300 price range. Let's go ahead and check it out. Hey guys, welcome back to Just the Watch. My name's Dave. I live in Japan. I love to collect affordable watches. If you love affordable watches, hit the subscribe. Love to have you be a part of the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at a watch from Spinnaker, and it's been a little while since I've had a Spinnaker on the channel. But I'm always watching their new releases, and when they announced the Spinnaker Croft and offered to let me review it, this is one that I really couldn't pass up. And I'm glad I didn't, because this is a pretty excellent watch for the price. Now, this watch was given to me by Spinnaker for free for review purposes, which is why you saw the paid promotions flag at the beginning of this video. I also have a discount code which will knock, I believe, 15% off the price of it. However, if you do use that, I will also get a small commission from that. However, Spinnaker did not have any input into the content of this review. Talking about price on this watch, if you get it on the bracelet, it's going to be $350 at retail. If you get it on the leather strap, it drops down to $280, so pretty good savings there. However, Spinnaker often has discounts. I saw one recently for 20%. I believe my discount code gives you 15%, so check around, see what you can find. If you use mine, it'll knock the price down to just under $300. And I think for $300, this is one of the best watches I've seen in a long time. That $300 price point for a dive watch is kind of a crowded category, and I see a lot of micro brands, a lot of Chinese brands are really packing some impressive specs at that price range, but oftentimes I see a lot of corners cut. I didn't get that corners cut feeling with this watch, however. I think Spinnaker has done an excellent job at putting together a really impressive feature and specification package at this price point, while also maintaining a pretty high level of finishing and original design. So let's get into the specifications and see what they are offering you at that price range. This watch is the Spinnaker Croft midsize as opposed to the full size. The full size version is 43mm. This version is 40mm. It comes with 20mm lug openings, 46mm lug to lug with female end links, so that is a true 46mm lug to lug. It's a little bit tall at 13.5 millimeters, but not that bad. And curiously, it only comes with 150 meters of water resistance as opposed to the standard 200 meters that you find on most dive watches. You are getting a sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating. The sapphire crystal does feature a little Cyclops magnifier for the date. They're giving you a dive extension on the clasp. And inside they're packing a standard Seiko NH35 movement, which for $300, I think that's the best possible movement you could get. Now, design-wise, if you are familiar with Spinnaker's brand, this one does look a lot like the original Croft in some respects, but the proportions are much different. If you are interested in the larger 43mm size, Eve over at Alias Eve Watches just did a review of that, so I'll leave a link to that down below so you can check that out if you want to kind of compare. Other than the different secondhand configuration, the dial elements are pretty much the same from the full-size Croft. You're getting very geometric kind of rectangles and circles for the markers, this sort of segmented pencil, hour, and minute hands, and then on this one you're getting a lollipop second hand. Spinnaker features this off with a nice textured dial, and everything just comes together very nicely. It has a vintage feel, but it's not exactly copying any particular other dive watch that I'm aware of. If you guys know of any specific inspiration that they've drawn, drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you think this looks like. So the dial elements, again, have a very familiar feeling. However, the proportions on this watch really struck me as kind of fresh and a little bit unique. The dial in particular appears to be oversized for a watch of this size. You get kind of a thin aluminum bezel insert that slopes down to the case of the watch, and the case of the watch is very slim across the top. So you barely see the case if you're looking at it straight from top down. You mostly just see the bezel and then the lugs kind of popping out. So the dial really dominates your view looking from the top down on this. This makes it very legible and again, gives it kind of a unique, fresh look. A lot of times you're starting to see ceramic bezel inserts in this price range. It's getting kind of crazy what people are packing into this $300. Spinnaker went with an aluminum insert, and I think that that's the right choice here. It's been a little while since I've actually seen someone send in a watch with an aluminum bezel, and I really like the look. It's not going to have the same durability as ceramic, but it has a very vintage look, and the colors just have this sort of kind of richer saturation that you can get. You get some different hues than you would get with ceramic. I think ceramic's a little bit more limited in the color options that you have. And so I like what they've done here. And the bezel is a 120 click unidirectional dive time bezel, but they've divided the colors directly in half, with the top half being blue and the bottom half being red, which is typically found in GMT bezels, where you find that. Normally on a dive watch, you get the coloring so that the first 15 minutes are one color and then the rest of the bezel is a different color. This one kind of gives it, yeah, that sort of GMT master look, even though it's not a GMT. And speaking of that bezel, it has a very nice knurling along the side, which makes it very easy to grip, and the bezel action is fantastic. It's very clicky, very clearly defined, and virtually no backplay at all. It has some of the best bezel action that I've seen on any bezel that I've tested. Likewise, you're getting a screw down crown that is also very easy and smooth to operate. And interesting on this one, they've gone with a magnified date, sort of little cyclops on the crystal. So it's a sapphire crystal with a little magnifier over the date. It's a circular magnifier, so it reminds me a lot of just like a water drop. It's kind of a cool look, but I know these Cyclops things are kind of a controversial thing. And the magnification on this is not particularly strong. It is helpful, but it's not, it's not as potent as other magnifiers that I've seen. For me, I think it adds kind of a nice vintage flair to the watch. It's mostly a visual feature, but I know that a lot of people don't like Cyclops dates, and so for those people, this is more going to be an annoyance than a plus. But yeah, take it or leave it. Case finishing and design is surprisingly nice for this price. You get some nice fine brushwork along the sides and the top of the case, with a nice polished beveled edge running along the upper portion of the watch on either side. The case also has a nice curvature to it, which combined with those female end links really allows the watch to wear well on a wide range of wrists. I think that you're gonna have no problem wearing this if you have a smaller wrist, and I think it also looks great on my 7.5 inch wrist, which is a little bit on the larger side. One other interesting thing to note is that they did go with a solid case back on this, so if you're looking for your first automatic watch and you want something where you can see that movement inside, unfortunately this doesn't offer that. But if you've seen your share of Seiko Anti-35 movements and you don't really care to see another one, you know, I think a solid case back is, for my money, often a better choice. But again, that's largely going to be personal preference. There are also some other interesting features of this watch that are not always seen at this price point. You get a pretty healthy dose of anti-reflective coating. It is a kind of a blue anti-reflective coating, so when the light strikes it, you often get sort of these blue flashes coming off the crystal. Some people might find that distracting, but typically I've found it to be a positive for me. It does help with the legibility of the watch. It does cut down the reflections, and that little blue flashes, I don't know, I think it looks kind of cool. Another thing that is great on this watch is the clasp. Again, oftentimes corners cut at this $300 price point. Getting a watch with a difficult to use clasp can really be a negative to the overall user experience. You don't have that problem at all with this one. This one functions very smoothly. It's very secure. It's a double security clasp. So you gotta flip the lock up and then use the double push buttons to open it. It's a milled clasp and it operates, again, very smoothly, very pleasant, just a joy to use. And yeah, for 300 bucks, that's great to see. And interestingly enough, they have also included a dive extension on this, which is objectively an upgrade. The dive extension is just a press dive extension, but it is fully functional. And best of all, even though it does have a dive extension here, you do get full access to all 3 micro adjust positions on the clasp. That's another problem I've seen on a lot of cheaper watches that include dive extensions. Oftentimes the dive extension will essentially take the place of the micro adjusts, but you don't have that problem here. You get 3 micro adjusts and a fully functioning dive extension. The bracelet is also very good for this price. It's very simple. The finishing is just a brushed finish all the way around, but the links are all solid, including the end links, which again are female end links, and they articulate very smoothly without any hiccups. You're just getting push pins on the sizings, so your standard bracelet sizing tools are going to be required for this. I don't have any problem with that. I think it's fine at this price. What I'm more concerned about at this price is that the bracelet is smooth and comfortable and solid feeling, and this hits all of that. So far what we have is a very impressive package for this round $300 price point after discount, but you have to cut something somewhere to get it down at this price, and I think the Lume is one area that they sacrificed. If you're obsessed with Lume, make sure you head over to my t-shirt shop where you can pick up this cool Lume t-shirt. It does not actually glow in the dark. I wish I could afford to produce something like that. It just looks like it glows in the dark. But I've got this particular design and a lot of other ones that are really cool for people who are into watches. I'll leave a link to that down below so you can go check it out if you're interested. But let's take a look at the Lume on the Spinnaker Croft. Spinnaker has never been that great on the Lume front. Most of the Lume that I've seen on their watches ranges from poor to adequate. I would say that this one is in the adequate category. It appears to be Swiss Superluminous C3, and it gives a nice bright initial glow because you have such large plots on the watch. There's a lot of area to lume, but it doesn't appear to be a very thick application of it because it doesn't last particularly long. Scoring on my J-score system, this one scored a 3, which is more in line with a lot of field watches or lower powered aviation watches that I've tested. It's much lower than most dive watches. For reference, the Seiko Samurai scores a 10. So after 1 hour, this watch is about 1/3 as bright as an entry-level Seiko dive watch, which is, again, to say just adequate. It is a functional level of lume. It's not like the kind of lume that just fades instantly and is completely useless. This is usable, but barely. And the other area where they must have cut a little bit of cost is with the water resistance on this watch. You typically see 200 meters of water resistance on a dive watch. So to see only 150 meters of water resistance on this watch is a little bit puzzling at first, except again, Spinnaker does that all the time on their watches. Now, honestly, for me, this is not a problem. 150 meter water resistance with a screw down crown is going to be perfectly fine for any water sports activities other than actual scuba diving. And even if you're doing some light scuba diving, it's probably still going to be fine. So in my opinion, for what 99% of the people are going to do with this watch, 150 meters is going to give you all of the water resistance protection that you're going to need. But yeah, it's still kind of an odd thing to see on the watch. But other than those two areas, the lume and the kind of odd water resistance, overall, this is a really great watch for the price. If you are looking for a well-proportioned, well-sized, vintage style dive watch that is not an homage or a copy of any particular historic dive watch, if you want something that has a little bit of its own personality, if you want something that has a much better build quality than what you'll typically find off of the lower priced AliExpress watches, if you're just looking for a great all around nice looking watch for $300, I don't think you can really go wrong with this one. Anyways, let me know what you think of this watch. If you're interested, I'll leave a link to it down below along with my discount code, so you can go check it out. There are a number of different colorways and different strap options. Also, make sure you guys head over to the t-shirt store, check out this t-shirt along with a lot of others that I have in there. And if you don't need a t-shirt, you can go pick up a mug. Anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for today. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.